This is the Online Learning Podcast. Welcome to episode 12. Are you making the most of the person you can be? Online learning is your gateway to expanding your horizons in a direction you may not even have thought of. Hello, I'm John COLLEY. Here on the Online Learning Podcast, we challenge you to find the online learning courses to take you to your next level. Expert in something? Why not create your own course and monetize that expertise? Come on, open this door with me and step inside the Online Learning Podcast. Hello, I'm John COLLEY, and this is episode 12 of the Online Learning Podcast. Thank you very much for joining me today. I've got a very full and exciting show for you. The interview this week is with Len Smith, who is a freelance copywriter and communications consulting. He's produced a number of very interesting courses which have been very, very well subscribed on Udemy, and we have a very interesting conversation. First of all, I'd like to give a special shout out to 2 5-star reviews on iTunes. The first is from Steve Wyman. Steve, thank you very much. You say, John is an outstanding tutor. The podcast is awesome. That's fantastic, Steve. I really appreciate that, and I do appreciate you taking the time to going over to iTunes. The second review is from none other than John Lee Dumas, who is the host of the wildly successful podcast Entrepreneur on Fire. So it's fantastic to get a review from him, and it's 5 stars. John says, John simply knocks it out the park here with his passion and content. Keep rocking. So, John, that's really fantastic. I appreciate you taking the time, and obviously it means a lot coming from you. So that's 2 5-star reviews on iTunes this week. Now let's move on and let's take a look at this week's marketing tip of the week. And now the Online Learning Podcast's marketing tip of the week. For this week's marketing tip, I want to take you over to Hootsuite, which is a very helpful tool for managing your social media relationships. You can find it at hootsuite.com. If you manage with less than 5 social media accounts, it is free. One of the things I particularly like about it is its ability to schedule messages. Now, when you're sending to Twitter or sending to Facebook or to LinkedIn or Google+, you need to make sure that you schedule the frequencies very carefully because they have different appropriate scheduling frequencies. But essentially, you can prepare some messages, make sure you've got some links in them, and then you can upload them with the bulk scheduling tool. It's all explained on the site. And then those will go out at the intervals that you set in advance. The whole process once you get the hang of it, the whole process for bulk uploading is a matter of about 15 minutes. And then you've possibly got 2 or 3 days or even a week's worth of social media marketing out to your networks and your social media platforms, all done and dusted. So that's it for this week. Marketing tip of the week is learning to use Hootsuite to schedule your social media messages so that you can promote your courses to your social media platforms. I hope you like it. Let me know what you think. You can email me as ever, john@jbdcolley.com, and I'd love to hear your marketing tips. So now it's time for this week's interview. We're talking with Len Smith, who is a freelance copywriter and communications consultant, and I hope you enjoy what I think is going to be a very interesting conversation. And now it's time for this week's Course Creator Interview. In today's episode, I'm very excited and grateful to Len Smith, who has agreed to join us and be put under the Online Learning Podcast spotlight today. Len is a freelance copywriter and communications consultant. And in fact, he's done a great course, which I think we're going to talk about a bit later, which I'm about halfway through. And so he's somebody who's been teaching me. For which I'm very grateful. Len, welcome to the Online Learning Podcast, and thank you for agreeing to join us.
Not at all. Looking forward to it.
Perhaps we just start off, as I always do, by just asking you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, my background was very much IT. This is in the days of mainframes. So in the late 1960s, I joined IBM, initially as a salesman, and then as a product manager, product marketing, and so on, working out of Paris. And then after 20 years of that, I went through the typical midlife crisis and decided that I really wanted to do something myself. So I became a marketing consultant specializing in software houses, which were just beginning to form at that stage. And I had to segue into something else a little later because the software houses, as they gained experience themselves, really didn't need any consultancy. So I became a freelance copywriter.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's an interesting journey.
Yes.
Going back to the days when computers really were computers, unlike the amazing technology we walk around with today.
Oh, yes. So it's special buildings, air conditioning, and water cooling, the lot. Yeah.
So from there, you have gone and extended your range, obviously from a consultant into creating online courses and online learning experiences. How did that transition come about? How did you discover the opportunity there?
Right. Okay. Well, the main source of my income is still freelance copywriting, but having been doing that for nearly 20 odd years, I guess now, I was also looking for something else to stretch me, and I was beguiled by. Probably think back. I think it's 18 months ago. There was a lot of buzz about Kindle books, and so I decided to create a Kindle book on how to become a freelance copywriter. And that was published, but the problem with Kindle is that they really do no marketing at all, and of course the commissions are particularly low. So I had the makings of a course. Now, I was contacted by Udemy, who'd picked up the book, and said, this is an ideal thing, why don't you consider doing it as an online course? I must confess it took about a couple of months for them to persuade me. I really didn't believe there would be a marketplace there, and had a delightful surprise.
Oh, right. Brilliant. So they found you. That's
yes.
That's very good news. So what have you, in terms of courses, what have you actually created so far? Because you've been, how long have you been on Udemy?
It's about 18 months now.
Right, okay. And perhaps you'd just like to give us a quick trot through, before we're going to focus on one of your courses, and we can talk about that perhaps last, but could you just give everybody a quick summary of what you've got out there at the moment and how that all hangs together?
Yeah. Okay, so the very first one then was how to become a copywriter. So it's not really how to write. There are plenty of courses already out there. It's how does someone who believes they've got the ability to write, how do they go about finding, how do they go about finding business, how do they cost the work, how do they market themselves, all of those sort of things. So ideally within 3 months, we say that people should be earning income from freelance copywriting, and in fact the feedback from students does support that. Secondly, presentation skills, effective business presentations, which is something I had to do an awful lot of, obviously, in the IT industry. And then the course that you're doing, how to Google boost your business, your startup website. One of the things that I learned in a non-technical way was how to optimize my own website to the state where I actually get 1,000 different visitors of real-life humans every day. What's that? That's something like 1/3 a year. And how to create a website in 6 hours with non-technical skills. And then finally, the most recent one, sales and persuasion skills. So they're all to do with, very much to do with communications. But
your background in technology must mean that you've always been reasonably techno-savvy in terms of at least the user experience, if not from the coding perspective. So did you find it a difficult transition to port your courses to the online platform?
Not really, no. It's not terribly technical. You need to create and edit videos. But I've rather enjoyed that aspect of it. So a number of the courses on Udemy are really little more than a PowerPoint presentation with a voiceover. So it can be done with remarkably little technical ability whatsoever.
Yes, I mean, I've been playing around with a number of different formats for quite a long time. And we'll talk about some of the aspects of Udemy when we get onto the course creators pitch, but I did find it pleasantly straightforward to get online, which was I think in part also down to the platform.
Sure.
So which course would you like to focus on today? Which is going to be our spotlight course for today?
I have to say, I was going to say become a copy. Probably the Google Boost one, because that may have some resonance for the people listening to this podcast anyway, in that they may want to promote their own courses, and the Google Boost one really has been remarkably successful in promoting people's sites.
Yeah, no, I mean I've been finding it extremely useful. Can you give us a quick run through of the sorts of things you're covering? I mean, obviously, if people want to learn more about it, they can go and take a look at it on Udemy, and we'll make sure all the links are in the show notes. But just as a sort of introduction to it, what sort of stuff do you cover in that?
Okay, the main thing I think is focus. People, most search engine optimization courses go straight in at the deep end and at a highly technical level. I don't think that's necessary. What I did was to ask myself, if I were Google, what would I be looking for? Google does not publish its algorithms, but we can try to think. How does Google think? And from that, it was possible to come up with a strategy for using search terms, finding the right sort of search terms, finding search terms not only that rank well, but are actually used by our community. And in fact, I'll give you one example there. I spend all of my time copywriting. I live, eat, sleep copywriting. And most people, I suspect, would choose copywriting as part of their key term. And yet that's an absolute mistake, because people using the search term copywriting are interested in the career of copywriting, how much could they earn copywriting, and so on. But someone looking for someone like me use the word copywriter.
Right.
So my search terms, brochure copywriter on position number 1, IT copywriter, position number 1 worldwide. Those are the terms that people really use. So it's really more the thought process rather than getting into any technicalities. In fact, I claim that there are only 6 jargon terms in the entire course.
Oh, right. Oh. Well, I mean, I've been finding it very straightforward, but I think that's a really good point, which is to think really carefully about what people will be searching for, rather than trying to pick out clever keywords from your own courses, and put yourself in the position of the person doing the search and think how they would do it. Yeah, no, I can see the logic of that. So, do you have a particular audience in mind for this course? I mean, when you were putting the course together, who was your ideal course student?
Initially it was for my copywriting students, because I'd already then gained a large following for the copywriting course, and the main source of revenue for a freelancer is their own website. But then I recognized, yes, it also covers. It's also terribly relevant to small businesses. But its main success actually has been dictated by the demographic of people that use Udemy. I mean, overwhelmingly, they are entrepreneurs. They are young people setting up in business, often as website designers, as graphic designers, and so on. And I've had an awful lot of feedback from them that it really has helped them launch their career.
Actually, so that's interesting. I hadn't heard anybody talk about the Udemy audience as a group. It's not something that Udemy reveals very much about. And maybe that accounts for why my startup courses have had some quite good traction.
Yes, absolutely.
But we should definitely have a further discussion about that at some point to try and flesh out the more characteristics about the people on Udemy, because it'll help everybody to focus their courses. It's, again, an important aspect of course design. How would you summarize the benefits, apart from getting 1,000 visitors a day, which I'm some way away from doing at the moment, but I need to implement more of your recommendations. What are some of the benefits of taking your course?
I think the confidence that people get, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of websites are launched every day, and it's very naive to assume that other people in exactly the same line of business as yourself are not going to be trying to optimize their sites. So it can seem overwhelming. Once you understand the basic principles and realize that hardly anyone is applying them, then you gain enormous confidence and reassurance.
Yeah, I think the figure I've heard is that there are 200 million blogs at the moment. So just on the blogging front, that's quite a lot of competition.
Incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Before we go into the discount you've got on offer today, I'd like to just turn the conversation slightly sideways and put our minds now in the position of course creators. You've obviously been very successful with your courses. I mean, you have got thousands of students signed up to the various courses. What recommendations from your experience would you have for course creators?
Okay, a number of things. The first thing is that Udemy now has got some pretty good resources for people launching their first course, which wasn't true 18 months ago. In particular, they have a course on how to create a Udemy course. And it's pretty obvious that an awful lot of people that have come on board recently have skimmed through it because they're asking such naive questions that really have been covered very well. So my first piece of advice would be do the course and do it thoroughly. Next, I'd say it's important to gain credibility very quickly. If you look at courses out there, there are an awful lot of them with 2 users, languishing away with 2 users and no testimonials. And what you need to do on the day you launch it, so you need to prepare for this, is to have friends and relatives and acquaintances each to sign up for a free copy so that you've got some users. The courses the course pages do say how many students are taking it. And you have to ask yourself, would you really invest in a course that's got 2 users? So I typically go for 10 users on the day of launch, and as quickly as possible.
Yeah. On that point, do you have any view as to how Udemy ranks people in terms of courses and comments and ratings and things, in terms of the order in which they put them on the pages?
There's been a lot of argument about that, and I'm not sure that there is fully a logic there, but there is certainly a logic applied to the way in which they spend their marketing budgets. They have an enormous marketing budget, and they do a lot of marketing on the social media websites. They do pay-per-click. They do a whole range of marketing, and it's pretty obvious that they wait until a course has gained credibility, and that's why it's important to do it very quickly. And secondly, they invest in people that are actively marketing their own courses. So A, you need credibility very quickly, B, you need to be seen to be marketing your course.
Right, okay, well that's really good advice. What else would you recommend?
Okay, the next thing is to recognize, again, this demographic. I don't know whether it's because it's overwhelmingly young people, but the attention span is very short, so keep your video sessions to just one topic per video, 10 minutes or less. And the other thing that I've learned, which is quite remarkable, is it's an incredibly multinational audience. You only have to look at the names of your students to realize that. And then in conversations with my students, I do encourage them to contact me. An awful lot of them, their English usage is very basic. So I go out of my way to use the most basic English in my courses. I try to enunciate as much as I can. And something that I do, which an awful lot of courses don't, and that is I provide downloadable, printable handouts, which are really just a transcript of what I've said, but does help the people for whom English isn't their first language to be able to spend time really getting to grips with things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advice, and obviously that's your expertise as a communicator coming out there.
Yeah. Anything else? Certainly, I would recommend, and there's a lot of discussion amongst course providers as to how suitable this is as a strategy. I believe it is absolutely. Create a brief, good value, free of charge course. And that way you'll get 10, 20 new people taking that up every day. So very quickly you will develop a user base with whom you've then got direct communications. So once you've got the direct communications, you can cross-sell your fee-paying courses. And most of my revenue comes from cross-selling to my free course users and also cross-selling with other Udemy instructors.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. No, I can see the benefit of both of those things. Yes, I must get a free course. I certainly, when I put up my courses, I initially put them up for free and made it clear that it was a very limited time window. And actually, that plays to a number of the things you've been talking about. And then I switched them over to paid. But it sounds like I need to go and create a good course which I can list for free to build up the audience. And in fact, one of my agendas with this podcast is actually to get it up as a free course onto the Udemy website. Yes. So I'll produce some video content to back up and then put these episodes up as they go, so that people on Udemy can easily find the podcast. Let's move on then. You've kindly agreed to offer us actually some amazingly good value discounts, for which I'm very grateful, and I'm sure everybody listening will be too. Perhaps you can just talk through what you have on offer for us today.
Yeah, so what I suggest is that what I've organised is a coupon code, which can be used on, the same code can be used on any of my courses, and that will give us 70% discount. So if we take, for example, the SEO course, Google Boost Your Startup, that means instead of $90, we're talking about $27. So the code that people can use is OLPLS.
Very good.
I'm sure you put that in your.
What I will do is I will create a pretty link for each of the courses based on that. And that'll be, for the Google Boost, it'll be OLPLS Google. All the links will be in the show notes. You can find the show notes at jbdcolly.com/OLP012 for episode number 12, which this is. And just to be clear, the pretty links I'll create for you are affiliate links. So if you want to get the Google course and go through the affiliate scheme, that's fantastic. If you don't want to, that's fine too. You'll be able to see how to get to all the courses directly from the show notes. And then all you have to do is on the Udemy platform itself, when it asks you for the coupon code, just put in the coupon code OLPLS and you can do it directly without it going through the affiliate scheme. So complete disclosure about there are affiliate links here, but I'd much prefer to make it your choice. You, the listener, can decide whether you want to do it through the affiliate scheme or whether you prefer to do it directly, in which case Len gets more money, and that's quite right because he's done all the hard work. Len, that's incredibly generous. Thank you very much. How can people find you? What's the best way for people to find you?
Okay, my website is Copywriting on Demand, with hyphens, so copywritingondemand.com. Probably the easiest way to find me is simply do a search on Udemy Len Smith.
Okay, and I'll provide links to the website as well in the show notes, so that they're easier enough to find.
Sure.
Len, that's been a huge amount of very interesting detail and value. I'm fascinated. Actually, I'm very tempted to go and take your free course, which is Copyright Basics: How to Protect Your Work from Piracy. I think that's something everybody should be aware of, and nearly 4,000 people have done it. So I really appreciate your time today and all your insights. Thank you very much for your generosity with your discounts, and thank you for being a guest on the Online Learning Podcast.
Not at all. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, my thanks to Len for that very interesting and insightful discussion. I really appreciated him giving up his time for us. Now it's time for this week's free course recommendation of the week. Don't forget you can find all the show notes at jbdcollery.com/OLP012 for episode 12. Let's take a look at this week's free course of the week. This week's free course recommendation continues the presentation theme, and I've chosen Pitch for Success, free online webinar by Eric Bird. Now, good pitching includes the art of presenting an idea, a product, a service, or an opinion in a compelling and interesting way, and that's what this course endeavours to show you. It has nearly 1,600, it's 1,599 users taking the course, and Eric Bird is the instructor and course creator at Media Learning Partners. I think it's a very interesting course. It has 13 lectures, it's nearly 3/4 of an hour long, and hopefully it will help you to improve your presentation skills. So that's Pitch for Success, free online webinar from Eric Bird. So that's it for another episode of the Online Learning Podcast. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you being with me, and I hope you've got a lot of value out of this. Don't forget, if you do give us a 5-star rating and a comment in iTunes, then I will certainly give you out a shout-out on the show, just as I did at the beginning of this one. And don't forget, there's a special offer for you too in the outro, which you'll hear about in a minute. So I look forward to seeing you again in another podcast very soon. Are you making the most of the person you can be? Online learning is your gateway to expanding your horizons in a direction you may not even have thought of. Hello, I'm John Colley. Here on the Online Learning Podcast, we challenge you to find the online learning courses to take you to your next level. Expert in something? Why not create your own course and monetize that expertise? Come on. Open this door with me and step inside the Online Learning Podcast.